Hey everyone, thanks for watching the video. Today we will be covering how to size an object that you have pulled from vanilla. And so what I mean by that is I've been seeing in the modders Discord a lot of people asking like, hey, I need to unbinarize this file in order to understand how big it is in someone's hands so that I can make my own custom item a similar size and similar orientation. And there's a lot of pushback against that because unbinarizing or de-binarizing P3Ds is against the end user license agreement, which you agreed to when you opened up Daisy and started playing it. And so the question is kind of hits a nerve in some people because generally the only reason you want to unbinarize something is to steal the mesh of the model. And in some cases, in a very small amount of cases, you're actually looking to learn. And so this is sort of meant to bridge that gap between not having a debinning tool and wanting to be able to get what you want. So, and again, just to sort of reiterate, we're going to sort of show you how you can size an object and get ready for like Blender tuning or whatever so that you don't need a de-binarizer. All right, let's get started. So to start off, we have Object Builder open. If you don't know what that is, download Daisy Tools. You'll have Object Builder here. Sometimes it breaks when you click this, and so you can just click View Tools Directory. It's going to dump you into the Daisy's tool folder. Go to Bin, go to Object Builder, and then you can just double click Object Builder exe, and it'll open up. If you have existing P3Ds, you can just open up a P3D and create a new from there. Anyway, so step one is to get Object Builder open. Step two is we're going to open the Buldozer viewer. This allows us to see the objects in a minimally scaffolded version of the game. So at the moment there's nothing in here, but let me go ahead and add an object. So if I were to like put a square in here, we would see a square, right? Nice and easy. So let's go ahead and you might be like, Tree, square is like useless. I didn't come here to see a square. I came here to see vanilla objects or even modded objects. This will work for them as well. So let's go ahead and let's see, create proxy. And we're going to go ahead and browse our P drive for something in the Daisy files. I got too much stuff in here. I need to get rid of it. DZ, looking for DZ. And let's say we're looking for gear. And let's say we're going to do let's do a battery. Somebody was talking about a battery. So that would be what? Tools? Probably camping. Consumables. Yeah, 9V battery. Oh, we want the car battery. Truck battery, right? Battery D. Okay, so this is the big battery. Okay. Okay, so in your object builder, you're gonna see this nice big triangle. You can scale it down if it's too big. So like I like to scale it down to 0.1, so it's nice and tiny. Oops. Let it pin so it stays at the origin. All right, so now if you have a lot of proxies, sometimes you want to make them smaller so that they don't take up so much space, but making the proxy smaller won't actually influence the object size when it's spawned in the game. So that's just a thing to note. So if I go back to Buldozer, I should see our batteries. Okay, and actually I've never seen those batteries before. We're gonna actually get rid of this. Name. Battery. Where's the truck battery? Easy vehicles, parts, trucks. Ah, okay. Easy vehicles, parts, battery truck. Cool. Okay, so now you have the truck battery, right? And we have this in game, we can see it. Cool. So the next thing here is you're going to be like, well, Tree, how do we, size the object so that we can actually play with it in Blender? And so we're going to do that right now. And normally you have two screens, and so I only have one at the moment because I'm trying to show you at this time. So I'm going to be switching between these kind of awkward. Normally I would just have it on my other screen and I would move it around. So I'm gonna press F7 and I'm gonna create a cube. And first off, I'm going to just see where that cube lands in the game. Right, and it's obviously too big and bigger than our truck battery. So I'm gonna go ahead and go back out. And I'm gonna select the vertice tool. I'm also gonna move by normal so that I can move by 90 degrees, as you're gonna see here, down. And so I'm gonna just bring it down a tad, come over here and see, I'm still above the battery. Oh, too much. So this is the finicky part, right? Like scaling a little bit off. I'm not a graphic designer, so I'm not terribly great with perspective. And then we're gonna do the same thing for the bottom. Okay, cool. So I know that's basically it's 0. Okay, and let's get our left edges and our right edges. Let's bring those in real quick. Cool. Okay, and then let's go ahead and do the front and back. I know it's kind of lining up with the proxy, but this is coincidental. Because I shrank the proxy. Don't take this as causation. It's not. Okay, so we have it. So I now have a square that is the same size as the battery. And, you know, given that a battery can have some sort of hookups on these little nodules here, you could technically, again, do F7 again. Scale it down a bit. Right, and then go ahead and stick it up top. Orient it. And so you can kind of begin to play around with that. And then again, you would size them the way you want and things like that. And so this is basically how, you know, I do it whenever I'm making my own custom objects. I'll find the thing in DayZ that looks like the object that I want, and I'll come in here and I'll size it. And so now I actually have, you know, a small square that represents the size of a truck. You know, I know back a while there was some discussion around a fish and being able to, they wanted to know how the fish was oriented in a person's hand. And so let's go ahead and check that out. Rename, because that's a pretty common one. I could see people adding new fish. DZ, Carp Live. Cool. So here's an example of an interesting thing. And so like the battery itself was flat on the on like the surface. I guess you called it the X and Z axis, or Y is pointing up and down. And so it made it for pretty simple sort of conceptual understanding that it's going to sit flat on the ground and orient itself correctly. Whereas in this case, the fish is pointing upwards. And so this is kind of where rotation flags come into play. You'll see here that there is a rotation flag 17, which means most likely it's going to be rotated forward onto its side, and then the x-axis here, which is, you can see if x goes along this, y is up and down, and z is coming in and out of the screen. It most likely rotates around the x-axis, facing it on its ground, and then rotating it on the y-axis to kind of get it horizontal. And so, and these rotation flags are defined in the code out here. You can find them by searching. We're not going to go over that in this video. So let's go ahead and make our own square or rectangle that fits and feels like a carp. That way, our fish that we create can also fit in the hands correctly, like a carp would. Vanilla. So let's go ahead and look at our box here. Box is kind of like the correct width almost. We just need to shrink it on both sides here. And I'm going to ignore the fins. Generally, those don't really need to provide any collision. Okay, let's go ahead and put this one out a little bit more. Awesome. And then we're going to need to make it taller. So that's good enough, in my opinion. Let's go ahead and tighten up the sides here. It's nice and skinny. And so now I have a rough size of what my fish should be in Blender. So I can take this box, right, and then as long as my fish fits inside of this and is pointing upwards, I can inherit from the existing fish, and it's basically going to work the same as I expect the vanilla fish to work. And so this should be pretty much all, everything you need to kind of look in and make items that are similar to others in vanilla. And let's do one last thing as we close out here. Let's look at a modded object. Go ahead and rename the proxy, browse. I'm going to go to my P drive. I have a couple modded items here on my P drive. Let's see here. Let's just grab a table if I can find one. Ah, coffee table. Awesome. Cool. And so here's me pulling in a modded item. Maybe it's like a base, some structure or whatever. And like the question is, okay, well, I want to again, I want to recreate the same size of this. I want to reuse the textures. This is making it so that you don't need to be reliant on a de-binarizer, which is essentially illegal to use. All right. I want to give you the tools in a legal manner that allow you to be successful and talk publicly about your work. And so, let's go ahead and you can kind of see, since this is a more complex object, it's going to be a little harder to sort of place things around because I don't have the mesh inside of my object builder. I just have a proxy. And so I'm kind of just fumbling around a little bit trying to find positions. Let's go do that. So once I've found a good spot, I can say, okay, well, let's go ahead and shrink this down to sort of match the leg size. Down a bit, a little bit finicky just because I'm awesome. And then I'm going to assume that we start at 0, 0. Whoops. Assume we start at 0, 0. So I'm going to bring that up and I'm going to extend the leg out a bit. And I was pretty much right. That's sized correctly. A bit more. Cool. And now I, copy C, Control V. I have the other leg. Oh, dang. I almost perfectly did that. And so one thing as you're doing multiple things, like I can align them now. So I have this front view. And so technically I can try to align these as best I can. Basically, they'll be aligned correctly. And now, since I have both those legs, I'll copy both. Bring them over here and try to position them. And so I'll use my left side to sort of align them here to make sure I get my position as close as possible on my first attempt, just so that my iterations are reduced. A little too far out, so let's come back. Cool. Not perfect, but good enough for this video. And then let's do another one for the top of the table. And actually, I'm going to make sure it's nice and sized. Here to deal with. Check it out. Again, not perfect, but it shows you that now you have a table that's sized exactly the way this model item is, and you now have a simple mesh that represents this shape. And now you can go into Blender and make your object as cool or as detailed as you want using this as a reference. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And, do that subscribe and liking thing if you care. Otherwise, I'll see you in the Modders Discord. Thanks.